looks like 11:02 a.m. It appears that we have a quorum here. Director Stoll will take roll call. We do have a visitor, Miss Demetria Commodus. Did I butcher that?
Close enough.
Calademos.
Calademos. I'm sorry. But Director Stoll, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll go through a quick roll call. When I say your name, please announce your presence. Dr. Mary Carpos, Mr. Quanton Lindsay, President, Chairman Jerry Bassbinder, Mr. Mike Sheeran,
Here.
Mr. Lee Frank, and Mr. Dale Carr.
Here.
And I would just like to note that we do have some, our remaining two board members who will be joining us in a few minutes. I think they were caught in traffic, but we'll go ahead and get started. And we have our Vice Chair, Mike Dunn, who will not be joining us today. He has some personal reasons that he'll be out, but our thoughts and prayers are certainly with him as he goes through that process and deals with those issues. So I'll get back to the chair to determine if the physical form is present.
Okay, at this time, we do have a quorum.
All right, and I'd like to ask Mr. Quanton Lindsay to maybe do an opening prayer for us.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. Lord, thank you for safe travels here and back home. Lord, thank you in advance for our time and our fellowship. Lord, we pray over every board member and their family. Father God, we ask that you make us better than what we were yesterday. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. The previous minutes have been distributed. The video is online on our YouTube channel as always. So I'd like, if anyone would like to introduce a motion to approve the previous minutes from January, I think we'll entertain that motion now.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. The minutes are approved from the January public meeting. We're going to move to our next agenda item, excuse me, which is an overview of the last 30 days for the benefit of our board members and the public as well. The big item is that we had, I think, very successful meeting with the House Senate Ways and Finance Committee yesterday. We were able to talk with them about our budget proposal along with Governor Lee's budget proposal. They were able to give us some really good feedback. Some of the comments that were made, they're very happy with the progress that we've been making. They appreciate all the hard work everybody's doing. They also wanted to reinforce, having taken a look at our mission and goals, that public safety remains our #1 priority, the work that we do. So please always keep that in our minds. And they also wanted to emphasize that the more we can do with victim outreach, that would be very much appreciated. So as everybody knows, we have a thinner staff right now. But you all do a great job representing your areas of the state. So I want you all to hear that message from them, that if you feel comfortable reaching out to the individual district attorney's offices in your represented areas and let them know that their victim advocates are welcome to contact me, either directly, feel free to give them my number, or through our website, which is always available. I'm happy to talk with them and help them through any victim advocacy that we might be able to assist with. So that was one thing that came up. We've responded to a number of letters between the public and public records requests this past month. I appreciate Tammy's hard work helping me prepare those. So our chairman has helped prepare those as well. We've spoken with TDOC on a number of issues this past month. One of which is the Nolo Contendere C code that we still have showing up in the TOMAS system. We have asked TDOC to recode TOMAS to remove that option. They're working on that, but as everybody knows, it's an older system. Sometimes it can be difficult with their limited staff to actually recode some of that stuff. So you may still see the C option in the system. If it is marked, please let me know, because the instructions from TDOC to their disciplinary board sergeants and the admins at the different facilities is to not mark it. So they have asked to be let known if that's happening. So if you see it, let me know, give me the incident information, and I will pass that along, and they will be sure to engage with the admins down at the facilities and let them know that that shouldn't be happening. So for our purposes, you can ignore it. But the more feedback we get to TDOC, I think the sooner we can get that issue resolved. So I appreciate everybody doing that. We met with our new general services representative, Courtney Wallace. She's doing a great job. I've another meeting with her this week. We finally got the executive assistant, Tammy Turner, fully onboarded. She's been working to organize a lot of our stuff, including the notebooks you see here today. She's also been doing a really good job with FileNet, which is our online digitized document system. So please take a look at that. What I'd like to do is I'd like to set up a meeting with everybody where she can walk through some of those organizational changes she's made. There's quite a few subfolders. There's quite a few, like I said, organizational things that she's trying to do for us. And so I think everybody could really benefit from a bit of a tutorial there. I know I do. Very importantly, we were able to distribute for individual review last month, 1,536 incidents. I appreciate everybody going through their review process for that. We have several hundred that have already been completed. Continue to send me those, and I will update the master Excel spreadsheet as appropriate. And I also wanted to talk a little bit for a second about something that did come up at the budget hearing yesterday. We had been informed by TDOC that in 2022, the entirety of the year, they only took away 2,000 sentence credit days in total. We've been told that through October of 2024, the first year that our board had been formed, that number was around 80,000. But I was informed yesterday at the budget hearing that number had actually jumped to 300,000 credit days removed. So I'm still confirming those numbers, but in any case, whether the number is around 100,000 or 300,000, I really want to commend everybody because our presence on this board has really influenced that process, and it's really making a huge difference. I mean, a 1,000-fold increase from what we were seeing previous to our formation. So I think that's something really to be proud of, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So that's all the updates I have for the last 30 days. If there's no questions about that, I will talk a little bit about some outstanding issues. Yes, sir. Yes. Also, TDOC has signed a contract to move from the electronic Tennessee Offender Management System to a new OMS. And what they're doing between now and the end of 2026. So they've received federal funds to complete that project. But in order to use those funds for the new eTOMAS project, the new OMS, that project has to be done by 2026. So they're pushing that project hard to make sure that it gets done within about the next year and a half. They are forming working groups currently to customize that new OMS for their needs. I'm working with TDOC so that we can get on those working groups as well and have a dialogue about what works best for us. So we may look at forming a subcommittee to assist their working groups. We may have a full board meeting about it, but just so everybody knows, that process is in its infancy, but is going on now. So that's something that I think is going to be really important as a dialogue between us and them as that project moves forward. So I will continue to share information as I get it, but that's where we stand on that project currently. Yes, sir.
Richard Muckle was here, the chief of staff for TDOC last month, and he told me it was actually through September, it was 80,000 cases, not October. I will be happy to contact him, or you can. I think I would like to know, because there's no way you get to 320 if you were at 80 in September. I don't think you can. And I'm going to do some, or you can, and just say, what's the real numbers? Because either way, it's an astronomical change. It's making Tennessee safer.
Well, I think that's the point. You know,
I would still like to know just.
But I do think we need to confirm where
so we're not giving out wrong.
And I completely agree. So if everybody's okay with Mr. Frank, yes, Dr. Carter.
Well, I would make the request pretty specific, and it would be because what he said in the hearing was it involved about 2,200 offenders. And so if he could provide that list of offenders, their TOMAS ID, and the number of credits that were removed from each of those, because somehow they got to the summary number. So that's the back data behind it. And just let us have that Excel spreadsheet so that we can compare it to upcoming cases that we may be reviewing. That would just be helpful, I think.
that okay, Mr. Frank? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they've got a number, a firm number, they've done their,
And why was there discrepancy? Like, what's the difference between 80 and
320. Because I
That's a
mean,
huge difference.
from 2,000 to 100,000 is still a humongous difference, but if you go from 2,000 to 320,000, it's astronomical. So,
I agree. No, I fully support Mr. Frank reaching out, if that's okay. Yes,
I was, well, and that's in a month,
That's in a year.
in a year. Okay, I was okay.
That's.
You said September, October.
You know, for the general public, that's the great, I think our board has really moved, because prior to our board, the fact is, there just wasn't a lot of time taken back in the day. 2,000 days, I mean, it's not a lot of days to take for 14 prisons for a whole year
Yeah,
for all Class A disciplinaries.
I agree.
And now you're up to 100,000 or maybe 300,000. That's basically holding.
sorry to interrupt, but to Mary's point that maybe we should see what the previous year was to compare, right?
well, Mr. Frank, do you want to talk a
Well,
little bit?
Well, 2023 was our half year, so that's, the commissioner brought it in what, August of 2023. So that's why I think they went from 2022. 2023, I think would have been the same as 2022 if they had not changed it. I'd say it probably stayed pretty similar. But 2023 is kind of a 2/3 year, and I think he probably wanted like black and white, where you go from 2022 before to 2024, where it's fully a full year of the new policies.
And Mr. Frank, why I was clarity, because I may have misheard for the public and the press. I thought he said a month. And
No.
so I just wanted to get the clarity. It was a year, not a month. I
Yeah,
didn't know
no, that-
taking notes.
That clarification was because I misspoke. When Richard told us, he told us from January of the beginning of 2024 to September of 2024 was that 80,000 number. I thought it was from January to October, but it was actually January to September.
That's what he
Is that right?
said, yes,
So,
last month.
so that's where that comes.
Okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
I think it might also be helpful. I think it's wonderful to have the conversations, but I think it's always good after a conversation when that kind of information and data is being exchanged, that an email follow-up where that person memorializes it. And then that way we have a point of reference. It's not a matter of personal conversations and people trying to remember what was said. It becomes something that the public can look at the record.
Sure. Okay, great. Moving on to our next agenda item, updates on outstanding matters. I just mentioned this, but we are getting on those working groups for TDOC's new OMS. We still have our request for the 2024 sentencing manual outstanding. We still have our request for the disciplinary board sergeant training materials outstanding. We have a response letter to a member of the public outstanding that we expect to be finalized soon. That's something that myself and the vice chair are continuing to work on. We are continuing to finalize our staffing. And I know that everybody's excited about our efforts to continue to build out our staff, but we're trying to understand what we can do financially, not just through the end of this fiscal year, but beyond. So we're still working through some of those staffing issues, but we'll continue to have those conversations. And trust me, I'm as motivated as everyone else to finalize those, but it continues to be a work in progress. So I appreciate everybody's patience on that. And those are the only updates I have. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to announce? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the submission and approval into the record of initially reviewed incidents that have been determined to meet procedural compliance and require no further review. If you'll move to the second tab in your notebook, you'll see that December's numbers have been filled in for the approvals. We really got a lot of initially approved in December. We were able to go with 753 discrete incidents for that one. That brings the total for the 2024 calendar year to 9,162 total incidents that have been initially reviewed and approved into the record as procedurally compliant. So just to give everybody just a little bit of credit for all of that work. That's a lot of cases for 9 people, and we didn't even have a full board for the entire year. So I really, really commend everybody for that number. That's just incredibly impressive. So thank you, everybody, for your hard work. And I look forward to an even better year in 2025.
Michael, that does not take into account, I think I've asked you this for the dismissals, or this is just the ones that we felt were done properly,
Those were the ones that got sent to me and were okay.
the ones that were okay. Okay. So there were a lot more.
There were a lot more. We
That we looked at.
distributed close to 18,000 discrete
Right.
incidents. We completed initial review on more than 11,000 of those, and only 9,000 of those were actually determined to be okay. So the remaining numbers are either still in the initial review process, or we're asking for additional information, or we've re-adjudicated. Yes,
Which we're right at the end of reviewing our January cases, which I think all of us still have several pending. When do you want us to go on and submit you January, and then we can go on and fill in the pending?
Whenever it's up, some people have already submitted their January reports and they've left open the pending ones. Other people I know like to have them fully complete before they submit them. For my purposes, it's a rolling basis. Anything you send me, I try to update into the spreadsheet as quickly as possible. So that, in my opinion, that's always available for anybody to have the timing to do that. So I don't have a specific date, and I would invite anyone to just do it at their leisure. That's always kind of worked for me. If the board wants to create a due date, we can do that. But for myself, it doesn't matter.
Some are just stubborn. I mean, it's like you'll have 3 or 4 left.
Yes, yes.
And so at that point, I send them in.
And that's why I allow you to use your discretion, because I just think that makes sense. Some people may not have no pendings and they may want to send them in early. So for my purposes, it's totally fine how everyone has been doing it. But if we do want to formalize that process, I'm open to that as well. So everybody can digest that for a little bit. If we want to move for a motion. Anything else on the submission and approval of the record? Okay, great. Well, let's move on now to discussion regarding 8 incidents this month, but Mrs. Wiseman, I think, is still in transit unless she's available online. I see her logged in. Ms. Wiseman, are you there? Okay. Excuse me. Let's skip over that one, and we'll save that for after lunch when Ms. Wiseman, I think, will be present with us. Moving on to the next agenda item, if you skip past the 12:30 item, our next discussion is regarding incident number 1655413, and I'd like to introduce Ms. Murtaugh, and I think she can lead that discussion. Ms. Murtaugh, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm looking at incident number 1655413 for inmate Thomas number 432677. The infraction is assault on an officer without a weapon. The disposition that was given at the disciplinary board was punitive segregation only. Some additional points to consider. What happened was the inmate submitted in a correctional officer's face during outside recreational movement. The inmate did plead guilty and signed a waiver. His FXP is 6/2/2029 and his EXP is 7/29/2028. So he does have good time to take. And given that none was taken, and he does have 3 Class A priors. So my recommendation is 6 months removal of good time.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that inmate 432877 has 6 months of good time taken away due to spitting in an officer's face during recreational movement.
Second. Second. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Well, let's move to a vote. If there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Murtaugh.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
That will be, that paperwork will go out later today or tomorrow to both TDOC and the inmate. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item, which are incident numbers 1653134 and 1655163. And that discussion will be led by Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank, the floor is yours.
This is a new thing that we're embarking on. In pursuant to TCA 4121-236, I am requesting to reduce inmate 458144 15 months loss of credit to 3 months for an ASO on 12/10/2024 in Whiteville Correctional. Incident number 1653134. His last Class A was a PDW on 11/10/2020, so over 4 years. And I'll read the description. Officer responded to officer needing assistance. When door opened, I asked what the issue while my arm and hand was extended out. Inmate 458144 physically pushed my arm out of the way and walked out. I feel that was too much. 15 months, I think, is just for that, a push past, I think is totally inappropriate, and I request to move it down to 3 months. I so move.
Okay,
I'll second.
second. Any discussion on, Mr. Frank's motion?
I agree with you that from the description, it does sound, in comparison to some other things that we've heard, less severe. And for that reason, because as you have read it to us, I would never be endorsing an offender put their hands on an officer in any way. And I don't feel that we're endorsing that by reducing the credits, given the fact that there wasn't any lengthy set of write-ups leading up to this. I think that your judgment seems very sound and I agree with it.
I felt that laying hands is just a bad policy for correctional officers. And so I think 3 months for that to let people know that we feel that that's not appropriate. But a year and 3 months of good time, I think was inappropriate.
Is your position that he hadn't had an incident since 2020? Or
It's been over 4 years.
been over 4 years, and that by the description, you didn't seem that it was. Yeah, I agree.
And that's what we go by as description.
Yeah.
Also to the bank, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What you're proposing.
Well, in the old, these cases are on the older matrix, so
Okay.
they could have given 0. It's, for his first A and the last, it would have been 0 to 6 months here. And so I think 3 months is appropriate.
So I would, your position is that not only are you reducing and giving some of his time back.
12 months, right?
12 months back, rewarding good behavior incentive. So I agree with your position on it. I do. I agree with, and no, and I want to go on record, Dr. Corporal, that I don't think this board endorsed assault on a correctional officer. So, far as the time and giving that back, but not having an incident in 4 years and by the description, I agree with your position.
Okay.
Okay, and I just want to, Ms. Wiseman, there's a motion on the table to reduce a inmate's infraction punishment from 15 months to 3 months. And if you'd like, before you vote, I think Mr. Frank could read you the description again, and that's,
I'm listening.
okay, great. So that's what we're discussing now. Any other discussion? Okay, well, let's move to a vote. All in favor of reducing the punishment from 15 months and 3 months in in light of Mr. Frank's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. Thank you, sir.
My second one, in pursuant to TCA 4121-236, I'm requesting 6 months of credits. I'm sorry, requesting 6 months of TDOC inmate 567092 sentence credits be removed for an ASO incident. Number 1655163 on 12/28/24 in Riverbend Maximum Security. Request is in compliance with current TDOC policy. Inmate 567092 has been found guilty of 7 Class A infractions in the last year. This is his third ASO in the last year. Each of these ASOs were from throwing bodily fluids on TDOC personnel. And during the two previous, no credits were taken in any of those two. I'm requesting 6 months. I so move.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And I agree with you, sir, that credits should be removed. It's unfortunate they weren't. I'm just thinking in my own mind about the previous case Ms. Murtaugh brought. And the person didn't have priors. And that was 6 months. This person has how many priors?
No, the person that I brought had 3 priors.
For doing the exact same thing?
No, there were 3 Class A priors, and it just, so to me, it's still a Class A is a Class A. That's the statutory requirement. Doesn't have to be within the same.
As a board member, I don't personally see all Class A's as equivalent. So in talking about, did I hear you correct? This person has thrown bodily fluids on officers multiple times.
Yeah.
And has previously not had sentence credits removed. And so even by looking at TDOC's own matrix of multiples, 2 or more prior convictions, they had at their disposal the ability to take up to 15 months. And previously they've taken.
Yeah, back in the old matrix, but they could take 0 as well.
Yeah, understood. It's a range, 0
Right.
to 15 months. And
Well,
so,
the first time I brought throwing bodily fluids, I brought 6 months. The board made a different decision. I'm going to be consistent. I believe 6 months for the time that he's finally have credits taken is what I'm requesting.
How much good time does he have on the books? 42 months? So it's 42
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, it's
Not a lot.
which we can get, which you move into sentence extensions after when their FXP and their EXP come together. When there is no more good time. So there is a sentence extension. And I know that you have the same person
Yes.
the next month. 6 months I felt was appropriate, but,
well, you know,
and I said,
and
Y'all-
different board
y'all-
members can have different perspectives. We may see it differently. For me, probably, I might have taken into consideration repeated actions of the same type towards staff.
right,
And, for me, it might be more than that. But I yield to whatever, the consensus of the board is, but, that was just my concern. If I heard you correctly, this person has done this exact same thing repeatedly involving staff.
What would you propose, Dr. Crowe?
Well, within the context of their own matrix, let me ask you one other question, if I might. How recently were those other?
should have written that down. I can look that up. I don't.
But it's been within the last year and a half,
Might
18
have.
months?
Yes,
Last
yes,
18
yes.
months.
He's had 7 A's and the 2 ASOs were in the last year. And he's had 7 in the last year. And if I'm not, and I should have wrote that down, but I think 1 was in June. Maybe 1 was in November. They've been fairly recent. I mean, I can look
I
at
would
it.
probably lean more toward, double that. And still be well within the matrix. But as I said, these are things that we might consider sometime in the future in terms of, how would we calibrate this? But I appreciate you, singling this case out. I think you have flagged a case that's definitely worthy of consideration. And certainly I agree with you, 6 months, if not more.
I'll just, go on the record again, as I said last time, when it comes to the bodily fluid, it did, not only does it endanger the correctional officers, he or she has to go home to a spouse and get into a community. So when it comes to the bodily fluid, it's just, to me, and it's just repetitive. And I say this every time we get one of these cases. It is the lowest form of communicating your emotions. So, and I know I'm gonna sound like he says that every time, but, I just think about where you are mentally, that is your low, that this is how I'm gonna communicate my grievance. So I always say that every time we get one of these discussions where you said, no other grievance, no form, no appeal, I'm gonna throw waves of body fluid in someone's face.
And I'm not sure with him having only a month, was it 42 days?
He has 42 days of good time credit, period.
Oh,
And I don't
So
know
he's
if,
taking 6 months worth of that.
okay.
so he's gonna go,
Right.
it would be
Yeah.
a 5.5, let's see, what would that be? A 5-month sentence extension per TDOC policy saying past his, when he is supposed to be last moment out the door, then it's 5 more months. And,
Another way to put
and
it,
I don't know if the D boards are looking at those numbers. That might be something we have a discussion about with the D boards. Are you looking at it that they have no credit? And so why waste, why do this? Do they not want to put them in the hole?
And Mr. Merz, are you looking at with the 42 days, this is more of, extended when you give it the 6 months, because you only have 42 days of
Yeah,
good
it's
time.
1 month and then 12 days.
Yeah, good time credit.
And I
So it's
think-
more of a sentence extension.
Mr. Gaspar here, guys.
Yes, looking at this gentleman's, sentence right now, he has 42 days of credit left, but he's already got 4 months and 8 days sentence extension.
Right.
So he's gonna, keep going deeper on his sentence extension. He's going way past it.
Remind me how that works again.
If, as you build up your good days, you can get a total of 16 good days of behavioral days per month. If, for instance, you have 90 days of good days and behavioral days, and you just lost 4 months of credit on write-up, then that puts you in the whole 30 days. So they automatically do a sentence extension on that. And you can have the maximum sentence extension of up to 5 years. So you could have a 3-year sentence and have a sentence extension go to 5 years and actually do 8 years over 3 years. If you continuously.
And so I think I've been looking at this wrong. If we want to take more time than we see they have credit for, we can.
Yes, ma'am.
See, I always think limited.
That's why I said that.
Well, I think the commissioner talked to you about when they're licensed, when people that he still, as policy, if you do it, you do it. And even if they, let's say I've seen some that are getting out in 2153, he still wants the policy to be followed, even though, well, he's never getting out. I'm not going to take time. Why waste time? But it says you start differentiating, and I think he's wanting more consistency in. I don't care how long you're here for. These are our rules when you're in, when you miss me.
On one of our first meetings with the commissioner, we were talking about people doing live, and we saw D boards that weren't taking credits away, and the commissioner said, that's not the way I've instructed them. I want a lifetime person to be treated just like any inmate, because you could have a 60-year life sentence, and maybe 30 years down the road, there can be a court ruling saying that, hey, if this person didn't have write-ups, he's eligible for release. So the commissioner wants everybody treated the same.
Right.
and my practice is that I don't really look at what their balance is. I'm taking into consideration what they've done, what their priors are, and what, within the context of the guidelines, is available. Either they do or don't have that amount of time. So for me, it doesn't change how much I think would be suitable for this person to lose. They only have 42 days. But others may feel different.
Appreciate that. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All right, let's move to a vote. All in favor of Mr. Frank's motion, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get that paperwork out as soon as we can, either this afternoon or tomorrow. All right, moving on to our next agenda item, which is the 115 agenda item. We're gonna turn it over to Mr. Mike Sharon. The floor is yours.
Thank you. This is regarding my request to remove sentence credits, incident number, PDOC incident number is 1658079. This occurred at Riverbend Maximum Security Institute. It was an assault on an officer. The date was January 21st of this year. Tomas ID number of our inmate is 00567092. The description of the narrative, it said that the inmate walked up behind a guard, punched her multiple times in the face, knocking her to the ground. While she's on the ground, he stomped her in the face with his boot several times. He pled guilty during his disciplinary hearing and received a segregation of 30 days and restriction of 12 months. I am making a motion that we remove 12 months of sentence credits. This is the same Tomas ID number that we just discussed. Lee talked about his 12 months. Going back 18 months, he actually has 10 prior days. So I'm going to make a motion to remove 12 months of sentence credits.
I'll second that motion.
Been seconded. Any discussion?
Was this referred out to outside court?
I don't know. We haven't gotten that list.
So on the disciplinary screen, they can put ORC,
Yes,
but it wasn't noted
I don't.
on this.
It may have been.
Um,
I hope it was.
And just for as a note, the last 3 cases where we proposed removal of more sentence credits or sentence credits, period, were all from Morgan. Just for them. 3 different board members only brought cases.
This is Riverbend.
Riverbend Maximum Security, RMSI. All of them. Just food for thought.
So my concern that this really is a very serious assault on an officer that could leave them with lifelong disabilities. You said she was stomped in the head
Facially, yes.
more than once? Doesn't say, just say stop.
And we'll follow up that.
So, my recommendation would be probably 36 months or more removal.
36.
Ms. Murtaugh, I see you shaking your head and I understand you disagree, but I'm speaking about what I think would be appropriate. And I guess I see the time a little bit differently, and I certainly agree with Commissioner and what Mr. Bestbinder described is the idea that a sentence could be lengthened. But I think there's a different way that we can also think about in the future, proposing that if someone decides that they want to participate in programming and want to abide by the rules and regulations, that they could earn credits toward taking whatever credits we take away. So there's nothing in the statute that would preclude that. It's within the power of the board to construct that. That's a long-term discussion for us to have. But for me personally, I don't feel that 12 months is sufficient given the serious assault on a staff member. It can be life-threatening when you're talking about somebody's face and head.
Any other thoughts? Any other discussion?
How much could you take? 15.
15 is the max under the matrix.
Any other discussion?
I would ask 15 on the matrix, but can this board be that if we want to?
Well,
And that's actually something we're going to be discussing after lunch is, is the board held to TDOC's matrix. We understand that's TDOC's matrix. But what's the board's pleasure? But that's for an after lunch discussion. Maybe we could hold this case and bring it back after lunch and after that discussion. Would this be appropriate? Or Mr. Sharon, would you be amenable?
I have
Us
no problem
considering
taking
it?
36 months at all. I'm with you. I was just trying to follow their matrix. Which I think says between 9 to, the old matrix, right? Not even the new matrix.
I know we said we were, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is the old matrix. right?
No, this is the new one. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Monica, you're right.
Thank you. I arranged 0 to 15, right? I feel like this particular incident is extremely disrespectful and shows a flagrant disregard for human life, period. Okay? I want to know of those priors, how many of them were violent? Because this would be, I would categorize this as a violent, right? So you had one type of offense, right? So of his priors, I would like to see how many of them were violent. So if there were more violent priors, then I would move for it to be raised to the max of 15 months, right? But if there are not, he's already serving an extended sentence. Mr. Frank has extended it, and then Mr. Sheeran will be extending it further. If there are not a multitude of prior violent offenses, I would be okay with keeping it in the 12 months. But if we have prior violence, then I would move it to 15 to give him the max. And that's all.
I was going to say,
I'm sorry, Mr. Frank, no, you were ready to talk. Go ahead.
if I'm not mistaken, we voted to accept the TDOC's matrix. Have we not had this discussion before where we are going to follow their matrix?
We have, I was gonna make that comment, but.
I don't think that we've not. And so at that point, 15 months is all we could take.
And I'm okay with it.
Mr. Carr?
Oh, I was just going to, but that's a minute ago. I mean, she's wanting to go back now and look at the severity of it. A minute ago, she said A is an A. You know, so I mean, how are we going to discuss that? So if it's an A, it's an A, and if we can give 15 months, I was thinking that the board could do, and I know we voted to go with the matrix as that, but I thought we had the ability to, and I may be wrong. I've only been here 3 months. I thought we had the ability to do anything we wanted to do since we were this vote. We want to take more or less. And I'll stop at that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Dr. Carr, what's your hand?
So I do think it's a matter of record in both the June public meeting and the July public meeting that are available on YouTube. We had a discussion of how it is we were going to begin looking at these cases. We'd never looked at them previously. We now have Helmus access so that we could look at them. And what we agreed was that we would be checking to see whether or not TDOC was following its own policy, and this matrix, the older matrix, was buried in their policy. And so as we were reviewing, we were able to note on our Excel spreadsheets that they were or were not following policy. And I brought up the question several times at each of those meetings that my reading of the statute is that TDOC can have their policies and their matrix and apply it as they will. But there's nothing in our statute that makes us automatically adopt theirs. So I think if you'll check the record, what we proposed and voted on was that we would in fact be looking and comparing whether or not they were or were not complying with their own matrix, which is different than saying, we're constrained to ourselves having to only apply their matrix. So, but you know,
I just
it's
don't
public
remember it that
record
way.
and we can, that's why I say it's a good idea. Maybe Executive Director Stahl can look through those videos and find out the wording of the exact proposals and whether or not it was ever proposed that board members would be constrained and could not ask to take credit more than what TDOC themselves by policy can take.
Chairman?
Yeah, TDOC, its policy, actually on their own policy, is if there's serious bodily injury to an employee or an inmate, the imposition of a harsher penalty shall be sustained only if the offense involved death, assault, or injury to an employee, volunteer, a visitor or is justified in the disciplinary committee finding by overwhelming substantial reason. So if in the write-up, it says the nurse actually filled out a trauma report on her assessment of the correctional officer, so there's serious bodily injury. So you can exceed the 15 months under the matrix. Oh, my goodness.
And let me apologize to Ms. Murtaugh. I mean, what I meant when she said all A's meant to go, which is good, but I like the fact that we want to go back and see if it's an offense like this, I want to look at it. And as Jerry said, and I'm for this here, if I got stomped in the face, I'd want it max as I could taken away from you, if we can, put it that way.
And to just to address a couple of things I've heard, I think, Dr. Carpus, you're correct, that in June and July, we did discuss how we were going to be looking and how we were going to be organizing the initial review decisions. But I do think that when it came to the time when we could begin to discuss actual cases, a motion or a discussion happened where, and it may have been you or several members who wanted to know when someone brings a case, how are we determining what the maximum is going to be? So I think for the purposes of the December cases and the January cases, we did agree that we would make a determination based on TDOC's matrix. I do think the statute does allow us to do whatever we want, but for the purposes of these incidents that we're bringing, we did agree that we would work off of their matrix for those cases. And so moving forward, we are going to have that discussion about how we want to approach discrete cases that are being actually brought, not just initially reviewed, but actually being brought for discussion. And so I think we do need to have that discussion. But I remember it similar to Mr. Frank, where we talked about these particular cases for December and January. How do we want to present our options for those? And we did agree that it was going to be based on TDOC's old matrix, which does not necessarily confine us statutorily, but that was the decision that we did make as a board.
So would that be at the November meeting?
It would either be the November
So
or December
let's sit
meeting.
down together this coming weekend.
And we can. I don't want to take the time to do it now, but I do think that we did have that discussion because it was a well-raised point that how is someone going to bring something, or are we just going to bring it willy-nilly, however, or is there something we're working off of? And I think we did agree that for the purposes of the December and January incidents that are actually being brought to the board for discussion, they're going to operate off the old matrix.
You first.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the trauma, see, I didn't know that. And I mean, were they hospitalized? Were they sent to the local hospital?
It does not say that. It just says that the registered nurse filled out a trauma incident.
I think they do that on just about anything that's.
So would it be worth to investigate that more? If someone was seriously injured, and I don't know. I mean, and I understand what Jerry's saying totally. I always thought if they were
It would
hospitalized,
usually
if they were
say
sent
they're
to
transported
hospital.
somewhere. It didn't say that.
You could just get the institutional investigator.
That won't be.
Yeah, and some of this is going to be the person's own medical history in their HR. So yeah, there's going to be some barriers to employees' medical records, obviously.
Ms. Carter, based on your discussion that we said we were going to use for this time of year, the December and January, and under the matrix staff, I'm gonna call a question that we vote on the 12 months.
Well, is there amendment to, I have no problem. I thought 12 is the most I can do based on the old matrix.
Oh, okay.
I move to amend the
15.
motion. Yeah, I move to amend the motion
So I
to
know-
15 months.
I have no problem.
Second.
Okay, so we have an amended motion to increase punishment to 15 months, which is the maximum of the old matrix.
That's
We want to discuss that amendment. Any further?
question on the amendment.
Okay, let's move to a vote. All in favor for 15-month removal, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Right, that's good work, people.
We'll get that paperwork out as soon as we can, hopefully today or tomorrow at the latest. All right, let us do a little bit of agenda gymnastics here. We're going to go back to the 11:45 item, and we're going to try to get through Ms. Wiseman's incidents if we can for lunch. Is that all right? Do you think it would take more than 20 or 30 minutes?
Not on my list.
part.
Okay, good. Well, let's see what we can do, and we'll see how far we can get, and if we need to break, for lunch, we can do that. But why don't we go ahead and get started? Ms. Wiseman, the floor is yours.
Okay, the first one, incident 1653664, ASO, two offenders who punched, they call them, it's unit manager. I don't know the terminology, obviously, a correctional officer, I guess a supervisor. They both punched him with their fists several times. They took 3 months for each offender. I'm recommending 15 months. They both, I always look at how much credit they have, but I guess for the people now that we're seeing this thing. One has over 2 years credit, one has almost 2 years credit. So I'm recommending max 15 or maximum of the matrix.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion is seconded. The recommendation is removal of 15 months. Any discussion? First incident. Okay, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes.
Okay. The next one's also from Hardin County. Incident 1652854. It's a weapons charge. I guess I should be reading the Thomas Smithers record. 493864. He had 4.5 years credit. It's a 19-inch weapon found in his cell. He was serving time for second-degree murder, and they only took a month. Oh gosh, it's just egregious. So my recommendation is 12 months. Make a motion to remove 12 months. Second.
There's motion is seconded. Any discussion?
Read it first. I can do that over lunch.
But it's 12 months.
I'm recommending 12 months. Right. Well,
Ms. Wiseman, want to vote, or do you want to give the motion until after lunch to answer that question?
I'm fine with voting on it.
Well,
Yes, Ms. McCall.
I would ask to table only because if he has no priors, which I doubt, he has no priors, that caps her at 9 months. So
For the old.
for the old matrix, which is what we're going with, so I would just say unless,
He has a prior.
well, then there we go. There's the answer to the question. Thank you, Jerry.
thank you. So I'll make a motion to remove.
No. Any other discussion? Okay, motion on the floor. We'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
And my third one is from Attorney Center, incident 1654049. Weapon charge, Thomas 639173. He had 1 year credit. He was in possession of a prison-made knife. The details stated this was observed on camera. He was serving time for attempt murder 1. And they removed 1 month. My recommendation is 6 months. So I make a motion to remove 6 months.
Move second. Seconded. Okay, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Now, all the rest of these are from Whiteville, which to me is a problem because it seems like certain facilities have some patterns of not taking time or dismissing everything. But my observation, it's incident 16554. It was possession of fentanyl. Thomas 458646. He had 15 months credit serving time for second-degree murder. No time was taken. And my recommendation is 6 months.
6 months. Seconded. Any discussion?
Question, how much got?
And I was sent to this too.
And no priors. One.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't.
He has 3 months pending, so he does have a case. He has 3 months that's been taken from another charge besides what this Wiseman.
And can you tell us how much got?
No, I don't have the time. I just noted that he has some time pending besides. So 6 months would be.
On his, was the fentanyl on his person or in the cell?
It just said possession. That's what I wrote down. I think it was on his person, but I didn't. I usually put down the brief details that they have, so I'm assuming it was on his body, but.
I want to raise a question to the board. When it comes to fentanyl and the danger of it, doesn't matter how much, how little, where, and opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I just really want to hear the board's opinion.
It doesn't matter to me. Fentanyl is
Yeah,
fentanyl and
Yeah,
that's all you
that's
need.
what my position.
yeah,
is.
we've had police officers that are hurt
Yeah.
by it just being in the AC system of a vehicle. So fentanyl is fentanyl is fentanyl. I don't care how much it
And I wanted
was.
to go on the record with that because I didn't want fentanyl to get caught up in any old or new matrix. I just believe it's fentanyl.
Yeah, correct. I'm with you
And I
right
don't
there.
disagree with you. The reason I asked was I was trying to understand, sometimes I see somebody who has 3 grams of something. That's a lot. I'm just trying to understand, are they a distributor? Or are they a personal user? So that was the only reason
That's
I
fair.
asked.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do we want to table the motion till we get some of those answers? Or do we want to move forward? So
I'm comfortable with voting. I think the discussion is just helping us all think about, what are some things that matter to each of us in terms of deciding how I would vote. And so I'm learning a lot just by the discussion itself, in understanding my fellow board members and how we look at things. So thank you for bringing these. Betsy.
No, I agree.
appreciate it.
And for these, I should not look up their priors, but I will do that in the future.
And, I respect your position as a colleague and board member. Is it a dealer or a user? And thank you for respecting mine. I just didn't want, fentanyl itself to be called up. And because of the dangers of it, and because someone is touching the door in a cell, and it could be an inmate that's an innocent bystander that's going into his house or her house and didn't know that their cellie had fentanyl in his hand. So I believe we owe it to the inmates, the correction officers, Tennesseans, just to look at fentanyl as what it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think we're in a huge fentanyl, I would call it a crisis, just right? Like it is so bad. And I understand Dr. Carpo's the terms, personal use versus maybe a deal, but that to me is like maybe like some marijuana or something else, right? Like that falls maybe more under a personal use. Fentanyl, there's no such thing to me. Like fentanyl is just bad. It's lethal. It's lethal. And so I again, that much, and I don't like it.
any further discussion on the motion? All right, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
With the motion.
Do you want to remind everybody of your motion, Ms. Wiseman? You're reducing it, you're
My
increasing the
motion.
reduction to how much?
They did not take any time. My motion is to take 6 months.
And this is incident number 544.
What?
Jerry.
Any other discussions now?
I'm glad Jerry.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Wiseman.
Okay, this is my 5th incident review. Again, at Whiteville, incident 1654753. It was possession of a cell phone. Phone is 294875, 5 years credit, 5 years credit. Cell search with cell phones on bed and table. Cell night was dismissed. This particular individual serving time for violent felonies. It did not take any time. And my recommendation is 12 months.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to commend Ms. Wiseman. This person, she's doing exactly what we should. This person is a lifetime inmate, and you picked up and still took time away from you. And that's what we should be doing. And he actually has 7 months that hasn't been taken off of his list now, so it's a good find.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of increasing the reduction time to 12 months, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Wiseman.
Again, Whiteville, incident 1654022. DSO, Thomas 265622. He has almost 7 years credit. Another life or serving time for murder first and other violent felonies. He was positive for amphetamines and meth. They took 3 months. My recommendation is 12 months.
Second.
Okay, motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote to increase the reduction to 12 months. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes.
Okay, number 7, Whiteville incident 1653849, a weapons charge, term is 466614. He had 20 months credit accrued, 3 homemade weapons. Serving time for violent felonies, they took 1 month. My motion is to increase that to 6 months. And
Second.
Seconded, any discussion?
Jared, do you know, does he have priors?
Yes, he does, and actually, this was a very good find again by Ms. Wiseman, because this person was just about to be released. And, he did have some, lost credit that hadn't been removed, but this is gonna keep him in, so, yes, he has priors, and, TDOC did catch up with his, existing credits on the 25th of this month or January. So this will keep, this is one that will stay a little longer for his violations.
how quickly does what we do here get over there to into their system?
The way it works is, we'll fill out the paperwork and send it directly over to TDOC. They will give it to their admins within a week to 10 days. So it should show up in the e-Toma system by then. But we also do a physical copy to the inmate themselves, and they do have an opportunity to appeal. So if the appeal happens, the decision of the board will be halted until, that appeal process is finished. But on TDOC's part, a week to 10 days is about the processing time.
Okay, and my last one, number 8, White.
Wait, I'm sorry, I don't think we
Oh,
voted.
did we vote?
Is there any more discussion? Okay, so the motion is to increase the reduction punishment from 1 month to 6 months. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes.
Okay, and the last one in Whiteville incident 1653167, weapons charge, term is 298126. He had 3 years, 3 months credit. It was an 8-inch weapon. The cellmate was dismissed. This individual serving time for murder in the 2nd degree. He had 1 month taken. I'm making a motion to increase that to 12 months.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah. Mrs. White, did he plead guilty to the weapon?
I didn't look this up for Dave. It was before I realized I'm supposed to.
Why I ask that? Because what you'll usually see when the cellmate is dismissed is because the other one took ownership. And so, more than likely he pled guilty for it to be dismissed on this cellmate. So I just wanted to know.
And this is a January case.
No, these were all December. I had a couple.
They're
of
Decembers, okay.
They're all.
Thank you.
Do we want to put the dates on these to be here?
Or
Just a housekeeping question. Should we, when we present these to the board, do you guys want us to put the dates on them? Does that matter?
I'd just like to bring up, this is another good thing. Whiteville, being like they are, is very slow in getting sentence credits, paperwork to TDOC. This person was scheduled to be released this month. And besides the 12 months you're taking, there was actually a 15-month case pending from over a year ago that hadn't made it to central office. They did catch it, and
So now we know that they're aware of this now?
they are aware of the 15 months. It was added on to his sentence February the 7th.
Oh, wow.
So the additional 12 will go on top of that.
Yeah.
Another good thing. That's the prosecutor coming out of it.
Thank you.
No,
On or about December 3rd. Did I make?
you did, it was seconded. Any other discussion? Any further debate, discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote to increase the time from 1 month to 12 months. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Wiseman. We will begin working on that report and try to get that over to PDOC either this afternoon or tomorrow. And you should see that show up in the e-Toma system, like I said, in a week to 10 days. If you don't, please let me know, and we can see where that inclusion is in that process. Yeah. Great. Okay, well, that concludes our incident discussion for today's agenda. I think this might be a good opportunity to take a break. I'm thinking we could have a 30-minute lunch. Is that enough time for everybody? About 35 minutes. Why don't we say we'll come back at 12:45? It's 38 minutes. And we can finish the rest of our agenda. That work for everybody?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
all right, well, we'll plan on getting started at 12:45. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
You gonna pause and stop the video?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right.
I'm good.